There we go. Okay. I'm a little behind the power curve tonight.
Yep.
We had some things going on. So it's 8:01. Wow, and there's 5 people here already, and I already got three thumbs up. So this is good. Nothing can go wrong tonight. Nothing can go wrong. Maybe that light on right there would help. The one on the fan. No, the one on the fan is good because it does look like a little dark, but yeah, that's much better. Okay. Oh, look at that. Now we're really cooking. We've got Christmas lights here that Jill just turned on. Okay. This is Mark coming to you from Baker's Green Acres. Had a hat on all day. I got the hat hair. And I got a couple things that I'd like to start off with tonight. Wintertime is the time for thinking and planning, but I usually don't do that this early in the winter. It's early, but today's the 10th or 11th of December. It's pretty early. But because of doing this call-in or this live chat, it just, I wake up Wednesday morning and I'm already thinking about, you wake up in the morning, you say, well, what do I have to do today? And it's kind of like, I have a dentist appointment today, not so good, or I have the live chat tonight, and I get kind of a little bit of a tickle out of that. I enjoy doing this, right? So, all right, so a couple things. On everybody's mind, I'm sure, is the fate of the puppy, Silver the puppy. Silver is 20 weeks old, maybe 21 weeks old, and the deal on him was he was supposed to go to a lady. When he was just, 5 weeks old, she put a deposit on him, came and saw him, and then she said that she was going to have her knee replaced, so she couldn't take him right away. So we said, okay, we'll hang on to him for another 10 days. And then she was not able to get her knee replaced, and it was too bad for her to have a puppy. And she said, just sell him to somebody else. I'll get one out of the next litter. So we said, okay. Then a week went by, or no, maybe a month went by, and Jill contacted her and said, he's still here. No one's picked him. And she said, okay, I'll take him, but can you hang on to him for another 10 days? And about that time is when I said, let's put him out there to see if anybody else wants him. And we got a few inquiries, but at this stage of the game, he's pretty well settled here. He has, taken to the duties that his mother and father do around here and done really well. He's a nice little dog. And he's pretty big now, too. He's not a puppy. So my thought was, if he goes to somebody who lives in a small house and has an old dog and no farm to run on and stuff, he might be a problem. So I talked to her, and she agreed. And so I put him out there again, had a couple inquiries, but nothing really good. And so I just decided I'm going to keep him. So that's the way it's going to be. So we've had 2 females in the past. We've never had 2 males. So at about a year old, we'll have to make a decision whether or not he's going to be castrated or not. So we don't have to worry about that for a while. So we're not going to. So Silver will be staying with us, and we're not going to breed Claire back for a while. We're not going to. So what we plan to do is start a list. And if people want a puppy, we will put you on the list, and we will take $100 deposit from you. Make sure that you're serious about it. And when we have enough to fill a litter, or a reasonable amount of a litter is about 8, then we'll breed her. But not until then, because I think we've kind of saturated the market for around here. Okay. Uh, let's see. I had several subjects that I wanted to talk about. But there was one that came up that was kind of negative. But I think a lot of you now need to know this. And this is a little tough to do, but I think it has to be said. When we are in the homesteading business and our customers are our family and our friends, we don't have to make a lot of claims. You know, if we want to raise chickens in a horse trailer and feed them to our family, that's fine. We can do that. But it's not good to raise chickens in a horse trailer and then claim that they're pasture raised. All right. Now I'm going to cite two different people that I know well, and I know what they're doing. Actually, three actually. One raises chickens in a hen house. This guy lives close to me. He's got a little door about this big, and then a little gated in area where they grow grass. And he claims that the chickens are pasture raised. And the labeling on it at the store says pasture raised. And that is untrue. You know, a pastured chicken is raised out on pasture. It is not that the chicken has access to pasture. That's not going to work. Chickens won't go out there unless you make them go out there. So in the economy that we have, you know, as homesteaders feeding our family and our friends, reliability, honesty, and integrity are paramount. And what I have seen in commercial farming is whenever there's money involved, there seems to be a lot of people who will make a claim because nobody's looking, and you know, pass off a product as something that it is not. I actually know one guy. I haven't seen him in years, but he would have chicken delivered to his house from a food service truck, you know, and then he was repackaging that chicken and selling it as chicken that he raised, you know, with his label on it. And the Department of Ag people around here, they knew it. They knew it. They never did anything about it. I don't think it's really their job. They really only mess with people that they don't like. And the problem with that is some of that chicken was winding up in health food stores, and there's people that go there because they cannot tolerate corn or soy, or some people can't tolerate any kind of antibiotic because of a health condition. So that's really poor to do that. And I just think that it's something that needs to be brought up. Some of you are going to start into the homesteading process, and some of the stuff that you're not going to have the wherewithal to do. So you're going to say, well, I raise my own chickens, but I don't raise beef, so I want to go find beef. And it is not a bad thing to say to a farmer, well, I want to come and see how you do it, right? People say this to me and I say, hey, good. I want you to come and see how we do it. Because then when they're sharing one of our chickens or some of our beef or some of our pork with somebody else at their kitchen table or their dinner table, they can say, yeah, I've been there. I've seen how they do things. And these guys are legit. They're on the level. Because there is a lot of illegit things going on. And it seems in the alternative food world that is more the norm. And I don't like that at all. And I think we need to stay away from that. Okay, so I said it. There is a farm out there, and we're going to hear from him tonight. And Jill is going to put their contact information in the show notes. Okay, can you help me on that name?
2 Quacks and 5 Clucks Farm.
2 Quacks and 5 Clucks. I usually just call them Clucks and Ducks, or Ducks and Clucks, and you know, kind of kidding around, whatever. But these people, and they're not the only ones, but these people came on the scene with us, I think on this show, I'm pretty sure. uh, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. I'm not really sure. We don't really know who's here, only when people make comments. And then they joined up the Anyone Can Farm tribe, and there's been a smattering of pictures that they have put out. His name is Scott. Her name is Jen. Their last name is Burton. And they have several kids. And where do they live?
Partlow, Virginia.
In Virginia. Yeah. And I've watched them for several months now, and it's a class operation. I'm I'm really impressed when I see a farming operation and things are straight and neat and clean and attention to detail. It really turns me on. I really don't know what Scott does. I think Jen is in the real estate business. I think. But you guys can pipe in here too. But Jill's going to put their contact information in the notes, and I think you should go there and see what they're doing, and leave some comments and stuff like that, and like the page. And they're going to do some things. I think they're going to do a show like this, a call in. They're doing some videos about product reviews, which I think is a good thing. I'm not in total agreement with really anybody, so that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm just talking about effort. I'm talking about attention to detail. I'm talking about tenacity to do things. Quiet. Obie's panting over there. Stop panting. So I'd like you to check them out. And I feel kind of a sense of comradeship because, we're both heading down the same path. And I I can when I talked to him today because he sent me a message earlier in the week, and I received several messages this week. I get messages every week, and I answered the question, I believe. But then I said to him, "Could you call in on the Wednesday night show and ask that question so we can answer it for a group of people?" And he said, "Yeah, he would." And then I asked him today if he wouldn't mind if I shared his contact info so that you can see what he's doing, and get inspired by the whole thing. That's what it's all about. Okay, Burtons, that's what we're doing. Clucks and ducks. Is that about it for that? Okay, the other thing, our good friend up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, Randy Buchler, had open heart surgery 13 days ago. He is home. He's been home for quite a few days now. I'd say 10. And I talked with him yesterday, and he's doing really well. He might not think he's doing very well, but he's drawing breath and eating and defecating and talking to me on the phone. So that's pretty good after he's got a scar on his chest that long, and they had to pull that rib cage apart in order to get at his ticker. And we're not sure if they didn't cut the whole thing out and put a new one in. And we'll never know because it could be a pig heart in there right now. Who knows? I don't think they did, but they fixed him. He's just turning 50, and we think we'll get another 40 years out of him. The new and improved Randy Buchler with his new heart. So that's good news for all of us. And I appreciate everybody that's helped financially, because they ran up a lot of bills. This was Mayo Clinic that did this for him, but he ran up a lot of bills prior to that at the hospital in Marquette. So there's been a lot of help, a lot of outreach, and I really appreciate that. We're going to go up there and help knock out some of the work up there. They had a heavy snow and lost some structures. For you guys that live up in the UP, I asked him yesterday, there's a lot of people coming around to visit, because if I go and visit, I don't want to be, a pain. And he says, no, people have been pretty respectful of, he's not feeling real great after having open heart surgery. But if you are up there, I would encourage you to call him, message him, something, and see if you can lend some assistance, bringing in firewood, cutting firewood, plowing snow, anything that you can do. And if you don't know Randy, this would be a good time to go and meet Randy. bring him a cup of coffee or something like that. He's a good guy to know up there in that neck of the woods. Okay, had another idea. And I think that like in the farming operation, I've been like this all my life. We're always trying to learn a little more, do things a little bit more efficiently, make things work a little better, a little easier, kind of automate to some degree if we can, just so it frees up time so we can do other interesting stuff. And so I'd like to automate this call-in show. I had a dream last night, and the dream was that I had a phone in front of me with a bunch of buttons on it, and people would call in, and I'd put it on speakerphone, and I'd say hello, and they'd ask their question, and then I would answer the question after we got off. I'd be answering them like this, and then you all would be able to hear it. And in the dream, it seemed like, well, I wonder why we haven't done this. That makes so much more sense. But that technology is sort of behind us, and you kind of need a call screener to make sure that people aren't just gonna, try to sell you car insurance or whatever. So we're still thinking about doing that. I would like to make it so people could easily ask a question. Typing a question is difficult. All right. So if there's any ideas out there, I would appreciate the heads up. The other thing is I do this show, and we've done this all this time. I'm sitting here, and Jill is sitting here. All right. Now, I'm here to tell you that this farm operation is not just me. In no way is it just me. Jill has been my partner ever since we started in the farming world, and that happened a year after or less than a year after we got married. We moved to a small farm in Montana, and it was just because we couldn't handle living in town, barking dogs and everything else. And we've always just wanted to do things, and we've just done things, and that's kind of what we enjoy. We don't really go out to eat that much or go to movies. I think we've been to 2 movies, but we do like to do things together. And then now she's branched off into her own thing. I don't have a full-time job now, so I have this that I do, and I'm alone quite a bit. So Jill has started a course of study. It's 2 years, isn't it? Or is it a year?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to let her explain what that is. And I think that it complements the things that we talk about quite a bit, because we talk about farm health, we talk about process health, we talk about animal health, soil health, plant health when we can. We don't know everything there is to know about, but the more you get into these things, the more the connectedness that you see in this whole world of what we're like, Adam and Eve. We're just kind of stewarding this creation. None of this stuff do we create, but we bring it places, and we contain it, and we help it along. That's what we do. We're stewards of the land and stewards of the animals. And when I talk about this, we're stewards of the microbes in the soil, and we get right down to the brass tacks of this. But we don't talk a lot about our own health. But now the course of study that Jill has taken, which I'll kind of turn it over to her for a couple minutes, it is the same thing that we talk about, but it has to do with human health. And I've been exposed to it. She's helped me in some health problems that I've had, energy problems that I had. Well, lack of energy, but it had to do with I was carrying around about 40 pounds that I didn't need. And, I was going to bed at the wrong time. I was eating at the wrong time. I was eating the wrong stuff. I was eating sugar. I was eating a lot of potatoes, all stuff that never bothered me a bit before I turned 50. And then everything changed. So now if I want to have a great day, I got a plan for it the day before, get in bed early, make sure I don't eat before I go to bed, a lot of little things that I've learned. So what I thought we could do to increase the effectiveness of this call-in is, instead of just me here, how about if I'm here and Jill's right here, right? And if you have a question for me, then make it for me. So get in here, will you?
I'm coming.
Okay. But if it's a question for Jill, make it for Jill. And if not, Jill's going to be multitasking. So she's got the laptop here and she gets the questions. But women can multitask. Men can't. All right. I can't even look at my phone on the toilet. All right. So that's it. We're going to try this for a while. And if it's something that you like, let's hear it. If it's something that you don't like, you probably ought to personal message me, right? I don't know. But let's go. Let's answer some questions and let's get this show on the road. So.
All right. I got 2 for you here, and then Scott has a pile of pig questions for you. Archuleta Bear wanted to know, do you restart your fish ponds every year, or do some of the fish live through the winter?
Yeah. I have on this farm 3 ponds that are big enough that I can put fish in, and 2 of them I have stocked. One of them is about 6 feet deep. They're both about 6 feet deep. One's pretty good size. One's just an irrigation pond that we collect water in when we used to irrigate a big vegetable field. We don't irrigate it anymore. All the irrigation is hooked up. I just haven't run it. Oh, that's going to be a problem. See that?
Oh.
Is that what they see?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll just have to live with it. But if you have 6 feet of water, you're not going to freeze down that far. You might go down 4 feet. You might, but that's pretty deep. Ponds that go all the way down to the mud, those are called freeze outs, and everything dies in there except for turtles and stuff that can live in the mud. The year before last, we got a bunch of bass for our ponds and a bunch of hornpout or catfish. And I split them up between the 2 ponds that I wanted fish in. And we did a little fishing last year just to see how they had taken. And the bass that I put in were about this long. The bass that we took out in 1 year were about that long. And 2 of them we ate, and they were outstanding. The rest of them I left in there. We kind of planned this summer to feed them and all that stuff. We lost track of it with everything that was going on, and that's unfortunate. But those bass are still in there, and we will get back after it. Now, what you can do to manage a pond, if you want to get really self-sufficient about it, you can put in fish that will reproduce. But what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to provide them with feeder fish so they won't eat the babies. Of course, they'll never get them all, but feeder fish are pretty easy to come by. Matter of fact, you can go to a larger body of water and put down a trap, like a minnow trap, and you can do it a lot and bring them back to your pond and put it in. So you're gathering up minnows, which are pretty plentiful. You can eat them, but you probably won't. But then you can give it to your fish, and then you can fish them out and you can eat them. If you're going to do it for sustenance, raising fish is a pretty good sustenance deal, because depending on the pond. depending on the pond. I mean, if it's too dark, too murky, it might not work. If if it freezes out, then it might not work. But every pond is going to be different, and you would have to match up the pond that you have and the environment that those fish should be in with the type of fish that you want to use too. But you can't go wrong with bass, and feeding catfish, channel cat, is sort of like feeding a pig. So you can go and buy pellets, but we never have, because I didn't want to add that expense to the fish. And I knew that if I put in bass, the chances are pretty good that I'd have males and females and we'd get some propagation of them. So the ponds are something that's on my list that I really want to do. I really want to start to understand that technology, because I've been to people's places that have nice ponds and have fish. They have fish, and you can catch them, and it's fun and all that stuff. I like eating fish too.
Mm-hmm. Same person.
Archuleta bear.
Yeah, had wondered about getting our chickens, and I told her that we do them CSA style.
Well,
and she wondered about how that works, and I thought explaining why we've done that.
why don't you explain that then? The question is about the marketing of it and
Yeah.
and all that. So how about you explain that?
Okay. Well, I'll explain
defer
what, and you
that.
can do why. Because the why definitely falls in your realm. But
Okay.
what it is we've gone to more of a subscription kind of model. People are familiar with herd shares or vegetable CSAs. So we've gone to basically a meat CSA where people tell us we want so many chickens the beginning of the year, and we raise so many chickens for you, and they're your chickens. So there's a lot of issues that we get around. We're custom raising for you. We sell pigs by the halves or wholes or the share of a pig. We're stingy with the beef, unless you're one of our children or a close personal friend. But same thing. It's all share system. So that's how the CSA works.
Yeah. Okay. And the why, I guess, would be, if you're going to raise a bunch of chickens and then you're going to look for a place to dispose of them or market them, your best bet is going to be stores and restaurants. And to do stores and restaurants, at least in the state that I live in Michigan, you have to be inspected by the state. Your processing facility has to be inspected by the state, and it falls under the producer processor exemption, which is a federal exemption, but the state of Michigan says we want in on it too. So they say we need to give you a license. So it's like, you got to get permission from us. And without that piece of paper, you can't sell it to stores that they also have a license that they sell to. So if you just sell it from U.S. citizen to U.S. citizen, 1-to-1, they can't get in the way of that. They'll say that they can, but you can beat that pretty easy by just saying, they're not my chickens. I sold live chickens to these people. They want me to process them for them. So, but you're never going to have to give that explanation, because without a license, none of these organizations have the authority to come up your driveway, because you've not made a contract with them. And you've made no terms with them. So if they do come up your driveway and start asking questions, you should be smart enough by now to not answer questions. All right. Don't answer anybody's questions. You don't have to. You have the right to remain silent, and they can flash a badge and everything else. You got to put you under a light and threaten you with a rubber hose about chickens. Just say, no, thanks. Get off my property. And that'll be the end of it, because they prey on people who don't know any better. These are bureaucrats, and somehow they're climbing the corporate ladder within the Department of Agriculture. And when they bust people for raising chickens and sell them to their neighbors, like they get a corner office, it's really ridiculous. But the people that are involved in that, the ones that I've met, they're really ridiculous too. We had an inspector that, I probably shouldn't go down that road. You can get me going on that, but that's the way you want to do that. And then, if you're selling them to a store, the store has a clientele of people that are coming in and buying the chickens. Well, that clientele needs to be your clientele. So if you don't have a clientele, then you need to build one. So you raise a batch of 25 chickens. You'll have some bumps in the road, but you'll learn. And then once you have those chickens and you figured out how to process them, your processing area, and you've got 25 chickens, maybe by then you'll only have 10. Cook one up and have somebody over for dinner and just see what they think. And they'll say, I'd like to have some of these. Oh, can I put you down for 20? Yeah, I'm going to need half, So I can't stress this enough. When you're selling stuff off the farm, if somebody says they want it, right? Remember, talk is cheap. It's so many times people have said, oh yeah, I'd like to have a pig. And then you say, hey, your pig's ready. Oh, my mother-in-law just moved in and, she's got to have her bunions replaced. So all kinds of excuses. And then you're stuck with a pig. You may have even paid to get it processed and then they don't want it. So always get half up front or estimate a half up front. And if they don't want to do that, then they don't really want it. And once you have a group of customers, and that's the cool thing about the internet, you can send out an email blast that I'm processing chickens this weekend. Who wants some? And some people will come and get them. So they'll never even make it into your freezer. And that's really what you want. You kind of want to corner people that they will be ready Friday at 4:30, and I'm not putting them in the freezer. You're going to a lot of work to do this for folks. People are used to the store, they want to feel it. And well, maybe I want it. No, you don't do that. And when you get good customers, you keep them and you treat them right. You call them and say, how'd you like that? And stuff like that. But if you have somebody that's a pain, just, no, I don't have any, because you don't need pains.
And when you're going from Homestead and you want to grow it into something that will replace your day job, take the time to build that market, because we found them to be a lot nicer to work with and friendly, and it'll make your life a lot easier in the long run, because like Mark said, you're not doing business with third parties that don't really help your business at all. Mm-hmm. When it's person to person, they've done their own inspections and they really, really want what you've got. Yeah. They're not going to haggle about your prices because they really want it. And you're serving them instead of working for them.
And when you sell to a restaurant, you're saying to them, well, my chickens are, say $3.50 a pound or $4 a pound, whatever. I don't even remember what we were selling them for when we did that. But that chef is thinking, gee, the chickens on the truck from food service are $1.50 a pound. I mean, I want to do business with a local farm, but I mean, the price point is really, so that's always working against you. And the chef will say, well, I really can't pay you that. I can't make my price point by doing that. So you wind up having to lower your price for the product that you're raising, because you have to sell it at wholesale. Whereas if you're selling it to your neighbors, if they've made the decision that they're going to buy from you, the product is better. And that, like the integrity part of it, as far as pastured poultry, it's in your best interest to make sure that those chickens are on pasture, because it makes such a difference in the quality of the meat that you can't ignore it. It's such a different product. So there you go. How's that for Archuleta Bear?
You answered his question wonderfully. Let's do a couple of Scott's here. Pig questions. And then Joe, we'll get to yours. Scott had asked a couple questions earlier this week. So know that if you have questions through the week, you can send them to us and we'll put them in the lineup. Yep. Scott wanted to know, can the barrow stay in the same paddock with the boar and gilt while they breed? The barrow's grown up with the boar.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways to do this, and Scott knows this, I'm sure, but if you really want to control your breeding, then you need to know the cycle that your gilts are on. A gilt is a female that is breedable, female pig that's breedable. A barrow is a male pig that's been castrated when he's young. And usually you castrate them so that they can be feeder pigs. You didn't shut the door. A feeder being a pig that you're just going to feed it out until it's the size you want it and then use it for meat. A gilt would be, a breeding animal. A boar would be an intact male, so his testicles are intact. You haven't cut them off. So there's several ways to do it. The way I do it is my boar is just in with the girls all the time. And then when they farrow, they farrow. So let's say I have, like right now, I have 5 sows in there and a boar, and the breeding cycle is all over the place. But then it doesn't really matter to me, because when they come along, I have a vibrant enough customer base that if somebody has said to me, I need a breeding animal, I just kind of write it down. And then when I have one, I have it for them, it's sort of like on my terms. That's not the case if you're selling to restaurants and retail stores, because if you're selling to restaurants and retail stores, then you've got to have a supply that's consistent. A chef is not going to put your product on his menu just to take it off the next day. It's just not going to work that way. You've got to have it spaced out. So if you're going to have a breeding program to accommodate that, then you would need to control your boar, and that would mean get him out of your gilts, or yeah. But in my case, I just leave them all together. So the barrows are in there, and I just had a sow that farrowed, and the little babies are running around with the boar and with the barrows, and it's all like one big happy family. Pigs are like that. Now, if you're doing farm pigs, and I kind of think farm pigs are just CAFO pigs that come out of CAFOs, and they seem to be like a land race mix, and they're real squealy and real loud. They're the ones that bite you and all that stuff. Let's see. They will farrow just about any time. So if the boar is in with them, a lot of times the boars are not friendly either. Where my Mangalitsa boar, he is friendly. They don't want to come up to you, but they're not aggressive. So I leave them together, and we don't have any problems. Not saying that we've never had a problem, but as a rule, we don't have problems. This last farrowing that I had, she actually had 3 dead. From what I don't know, but she was a first-time sow. And even the dead ones laying out there, none of the other pigs bothered with them. So you can keep them all together, or you can set up a thing where you have a catch pen for your boar, and you can separate him from the sows. And they gestate 114 days, and so you'll know when they're coming in, because that boar is going to be pacing the fence and trying to get at them. So it's got to be good enough that he can't get over it, under it, or around it, and that means electric. Scott, you were talking about, I think you were talking about netting, electric netting, and I just want to give you a caution on there. We've lost animals with netting, and friends of mine have lost animals with netting. When a pig starts fooling around with it, and then all of a sudden he gets shocked, he will twitch, and they can get wound up in it. I've lost goats in it way back when we did goats. And then we had sheep that would eat the intermediary pieces out of it. And so I've just totally abandoned that. I went that direction twice. One time it was just to keep predators away from my chickens. Big mistake, ugly stuff, hard to set up, real pain, always grounding itself out. I don't like the stuff at all. But I thought I should tell you.
Okay. Um,
Scott's got mangalitsa, so it should be pretty forgiving for you.
yeah. Two questions. Well, this is all feed. Is gestation and lactation feed necessary? If so, when should I start them? And does the boar need gestation feed?
No, the boar doesn't. Gestation feed would be feed that you want to give to a sow before you breed her. So she'll flush, they call it. She'll have a bunch of embryos go out there. That's kind of a CAFO thing, when you want to have maximum amount of baby pigs. I don't do it, and I never have, and that doesn't seem to make a real big difference to me. Lactation is kind of different. I mean, they've got to have more energy so they can produce milk. So they're going to need more. I'm always feeding more than my animals require. I always make sure there's a little bit on the ground the next time I feed. If there's nothing, I will hear about it when I go out the back door. I'll hear them screaming at me. But no, I don't. I'm with mangalitsa. I mean, you're going to hear different. There's a lot of information about mangalitsa, and some people want to be the first one to answer the question, and they want to sound like the smartest person in the room. So a lot of times I don't answer at all because I know it's going to sound dumb. But I don't want it to be that technical. I like to keep it as simple as possible and as close to the earth and try to mimic nature as much as possible. So, like, that I feed a lot of bread. I got a organic bread company that I get like 10 yards of bread a week. So I feed a lot of bread. I cut my own hay, so I feed that. I put a lot of straw in there, and they eat it. I grow lots and lots of forages, and they eat that. We have a chicken processing operation, so I have lots of heads and feet and guts, which they eat that. And then anytime I come across something else, I put it in. And if you were to come here and see the animals that we have, they're very healthy, and I don't use any medications. I don't use anything, actually. I just don't use anything. Anytime that we've had problems, it's been a result of accidental use of hog chow. So I don't believe you should do hog chow. Now, if you get really technical and you say, well, they've got to have 19%, for 6 days of the week, and then on the 7th, they've got to have 21%, then you're going to wind up at a feed company, and some real smart guy that's been to college is going to say, yeah, if you don't feed them protein, they're not going to grow. And they'll tell you all kinds of stuff like that. But these are pigs, and if they were in nature, they may have meat once a month, and the rest of the time they're foraging around and eating vegetation and all that other stuff. So I think that you should realize that when you've got mangalitsa, it's a forgiving feeding process.
Should he start the lactation feed when the piglets are born?
Well, yeah, because I mean, if
He
you're going to
starts
do it,
lactating.
lactation feed, yeah, I mean, if you're going to do it, but that means that you've got to have your sows separated from the ones that have not farrowed. And so how are you going to keep, you'd have to have her in a separate place, where I like to keep them all together. If you have a multifaceted operation like we do, I can't afford the time that it would take to, a sow has just farrowed. Oh, let's get her moved into the barn. How are you going to do that? It's really complex, and she might not want to move into the barn. She's going to stress her out. If she's in a field and she's farrowed, the most I will do is I will set a porta hut over her, and that's if it's going to rain and it's cold, you know, or it's blazing sun. I might do it in that case too. But no, I leave them right out there, and then there's no complications as far as moving animals around. They're all just right there. They all do their thing. The way our paddocks are set up, I've got a loading chute, and it's a square corral, and it can be 10 by 10 or 15 by 15, and there's several ways to do it, but you want it so the animals can go in, and then you can trip the gate so they cannot get out, right? And you can use that as a creep, and that's where the baby pigs can get in, but the mother pigs can't. So it's not a bad idea to feed baby pigs a different feed, because you want them to get sufficient. You want them off mom as quick as possible, I suppose. So if you have a creep that the babies can get in, but the mother can't, because if you put down creep feed for the babies and just tell mom to stay away, she'll hog it all. She'll take it all. So that's a good thing. But I don't really even do that. I don't. They're all on the same scrounged feed. That's how I do it, man.
Ah. He said he's thinking about moving the gilts into the woods after they're done with the boar. So, excuse me, they'll be already separated when they farrow.
Yeah. You'll figure it out. I've seen what you've been doing, and you seems like you're figuring quite a few things out. And that's how you're going to develop as a homesteader yourself, by having problems, approaching it, get some advice, but basically go your own way, and you figure it out. I used to have a problem when somebody asked me how to do something, and I'd tell them, and then they'd vary off, and it would crash and burn. But anymore, I don't. I say, this is what I would do, and that's it, and walk away from it. And then quite often I'll see somebody's having a success that I would not have had, and I like that. I'm invested in your success.
Taking a break from pigs for just a moment. He says he'll be honest, it's hard, but he's learning fast. Joe Brown wants a walk-in freezer.
Yeah.
Should he buy or build?
Buy. From experience, buy. Yep. I have one that I just put together that somebody gave me, and it was old and sprung and nothing really fit together anymore. I think I made a video about it, and we put it together and then shorted up with 2x4s on the outside and put great big long screws into it to hold it together. And we're actually using it as an observation platform. You can also shoot deer out of it. But you can find them, Joe. If you start looking around on Craigslist and stuff, you can find them where people have them and they just want rid of them or whatever. But if you go to build one, I don't know where you'd get used materials, and quite often the brand new materials are pretty expensive. If you find one, they have cam locks on the inside and they lock together. The ones I got that I'm using now came out of Subway. I got a cooler and a freezer. And the freezer that I got is 5x5 on the inside. It's not very big. So I don't know what you need a walk-in freezer for, really. The chest freezers are a dime a dozen. They are really cheap to run. And when you don't need the space, you can pull the plug on it and it will keep your electricity usage way down. If you have a walk-in, let's say you have a walk-in that's 10 by 10, which I've come across them, but it takes a lot of energy to keep that below zero in there, especially in the summertime. So you may have, 15 chickens in there, and that thing is eating up your profits. So unless you have a big operation, which I know you don't, I would stay away from that, those big freezers. I'd stick with the chest freezers for now until, it gets out of control and you have to have. Now, what Joe is talking about, I work with Joe. Joe's in Maine, and he was trying to get a lucrative operation going. And when I went out there, what some of the questions that I asked him was, "Is anybody doing chicken processing in the area?" He says no. I said, "Have you ever processed chicken?" He says no.
Oh,
Uh,
he meant cooler.
oh, cooler.
Although the
You don't need
the
a cooler.
freezer's a good conversation.
Well, let me run with this one, Joe. Let me run with this one. So would you do it? Do you want to do it? He wants to work home. He wants to have some money generating at home and complement his farming operation. So he said, "Yeah, I'll do it." So he's going to set up a shop, and he's working on a design and all this stuff. Which I remember I owe you a drawing, Joe. Sorry about that. So if you're going to process chickens for people, what you don't want to do is you don't want to freeze them for them, because you don't realize it, but it takes a lot of energy to freeze, let's say 100 chickens down to frozen solid. You don't want to do that because it takes time. And if you tell a customer that you're processing chickens for, yeah, well, they'll be in the freezer. They'll wait a month before they come. And if you think I'm kidding, he's not kidding. I'm not kidding. So the way you get around that is when you say to somebody, "Yeah, your chickens will be done this afternoon. They'll be sitting here on the counter." "Well, you mean not going to put them in a freezer?" "Nope. You're going to take them home, put them in your freezer, but you're going to pick them up and you're going to pay for them today at 5 o'clock. So you have to corner people because they're used to, well, I'll pick them up next week. No, you won't. I mean, you will, but they'll be maggoty by then. That's how you get people to pick up their stuff. But if you start putting them in a freezer, I guarantee you people will, "I'll pick them up tomorrow." And then it'll be a week and you've got 50 chickens, and somebody's got to eat that profit. And then they'll come and they'll be upset with you because the chickens are bad. Now you just make it really clear. No, we don't freeze anything. We don't keep anything overnight. If you don't pick it up today by 5, it'll be sitting on the counter here tomorrow. We do our chicken processing on Friday, and we've learned the hard way that you just got to be very upfront. They got to be dropped off the day before and picked up the day of processing. They have to be. That's how we operate. That's the service that we're offering. If it doesn't fit in with your world, then you can't use us. You got to go to somebody else. But when it comes to chicken processing, if you can get somebody to do it for you, you better get it done, or you're going to be doing it yourself. And while I'm on the subject, Joe, if you're going to process 100 chickens for somebody, let's say on a Thursday or a Friday. Friday's a great day. It's worked out really good for us. You tell them they have to be dropped off Thursday night. Thursday night. If they're not dropped off Thursday night, I'm not going to wait for you Friday morning, because what will happen? "Oh, I had to take, the kid was sick, so I had to take him to school," and they'll show up at noon. And you were ready to go at 7 or 6. And they show up with 100 chickens like you're a department store that butchers chickens all day. No, they got to be there the day before. And then people will say, "Well, I live an hour away." Just say, "Well, that's what I'm offering you, because until we have a working relationship, I'm afraid you might not show up tomorrow. And I've set the day aside to butcher your chickens. And if you're not here, I don't have other work lined up." Of course, as the proprietor, I've always got plan B, but it's happened to us enough times now where, I have, everything fired up, the scalder's hot, and then they don't show. Yeah, I don't like that too much. So we mandate everybody drop off the night before. And another reason why you want to do that is when it's really hot in the summertime, and that's when chickens are getting ready to be processed. If they bring them in the heat of the day, like noon, those chickens can heat stress bad, and you'll have a bunch of dead ones. So you want them being brought to you in the cool of the day, like from like 6 o'clock on. And when you have customers that are coming back year after year, you can have a battery of cages out there, and you can have a bunch of tags, and the customers know after a while exactly where to drop them off and what to do, and they've asked all the questions, and they know when to pick them up. We have customers that have been coming here for 10 years, so it can be pretty good. But a cooler, you don't need a cooler either. What you're going to want to do is get some sort of vessel, like the trash barrels that you get from Home Depot, the Brute trash barrels. You can put a drain in the bottom of them. They got wheels on them. You can fill them about halfway full of water, and then you put chickens in the rest of the way. And that well water, I'm assuming you're on well water, but if you're not, it's still cold, will draw a lot of the heat out of them. And you don't have to waste that water. It can go in something, and you can water your garden with it and stuff. But and that's about as cool as you need to get them. Some people put ice in. Joel Salatin puts ice in. We don't. We cool them in that, and then we do have a cooler in the shop, but it's not the same as a freezer. And I have had people that have dropped birds off and literally come back a week later and just like, what? Even if I've told them. So, and we've had to put them in our freezer to keep them from going bad.
Because
but
we're
I
good
say
people.
I won't do it.
Well, we're good people,
Yeah.
and customer service is
Yeah,
customer
yeah.
service.
Yeah.
And I think that guy did compensate us for our freezer
Mm.
usage. Anyway, Scott's questions. How long do the gilts stay in with the boar?
Well, in my case, the gilts are in with the boar right now, and she's farrowed, so they're in all the time. If you're going to take the boar out after you think that she's been bred, then you're going to want to go. They're about the same. They're about 30 days, about the same. So you're going to want to go 40 days, 60 days, and then when he's not interested in her, you're pretty sure that he's got her. Because as soon as she's bred, he doesn't want anything to do with her anymore. He's just wondering what's on TV. So 30, 40 days, in my opinion. I mean,
2 cycles usually.
2 cycles, yeah. You can just leave her in for 2 cycles. Leave him in with her for 2 cycles. You'll make sure that you're covered. If he keeps getting on her, then he's getting on her, but he's not getting it done for some reason. And there's several reasons why that can happen, where he doesn't actually get it done. My boar right now, Friendly, is pretty old, and he's these sows are all coming in at the same time, but he's only getting like one of them. And I've watched him, and he's not that fervent. He just doesn't really try that hard. And he misses a lot of times. He misses. So I need a new boar. I need a red boar.
Yeah. I'm going to come back to that one. When to castrate the male piglets?
About 2 weeks, I think, is about right. When they're really small, their testicles are so small that you can't really pinch them out. If they're 2 weeks, they're about the size of a kidney bean. And I think I have a video that shows how to do. Oh, I know I do. It's got a lot of views. And I just use a safety razor. One side of it has a handle on it, the other side is. And I get a brand new one every time. I bought a pack of 100 of them 5 years ago. And every time I'm going to castrate, I'll get a brand new one out. You just make 2 cuts. I usually swab them down a little bit with hydrogen peroxide, clean them off a little bit. Tiny little cuts, just squeeze those testicles out and then cut them right off. I've seen people pull them off, but I don't do that. I've seen, we had a boar that actually died because of that. So I don't do that. I cut them off. And a helpful tip on that, is this Scott Burton we're talking to?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Very helpful tip. You're not going to hear this anyplace else, but we're homeschoolers. Save all the testicles that you've cut out. Divide by 2, and then you'll know how many pigs you've castrated. Yeah.
You'll know if you've gotten them all or not, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Every now and then you'll find a pig that's only got one, and you're going to want to watch that one, because what it is they have 2, but one of them is still up inside of them. It's called what they call an undescended testicle. And if you watch them for a little while, it'll come down, and then you're going to want to get him out, because
You'll
they
have
can.
surprise piggies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. They'll start. And it's surprising how early they can breed. It's surprising. I know what they say in the books, but it happens a lot sooner.
Yes. Where there's a will, nature will win. Do you separate the gilts before they farrow so you know whose piglet belongs to who?
No.
For lineage, he's wanting to keep track
Oh,
of, who has whom and all of that.
no, I don't. Because I'm not really concerned with that lineage deal. But if you are, then I think what you'd want to do, just for convenience, is learn how to notch the ears and get an ear notcher. They make them. And you don't have to go by the tried and true system of notching. You could just say 1 notch goes with her, and ears are all named, and 2 notches goes with her, or no notches goes with her. And then you can kind of keep track of what's going on. Ear tags. Pigs are notorious ear tag ripper outers, and I don't do it because I don't like seeing ear tags out there. So I don't do it. And it's kind of neat when you have a bunch of moms that have all farrowed about the same time. One will flop over and start grunting and feeding, and all of them will go to her. There's not enough room, so another one will flop over, and then some will go to her, and some will go back to her, and they'll wind up all feeding at the same time. They get on a similar schedule. There is one complication that you have to be aware of. Let's say that you have a sow that farrows, and she's a month or 2, from 2 weeks to a month ahead of somebody else, and then the next one goes down to farrow. The babies that are 2 weeks old or a month old will go over on her, and they'll suck all the colostrum out of her. And that's happened to me a couple of times. And so then what you have to do is you have to put something over her. And that's where porta huts come in really handy. It doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes you'd think it would, but it just doesn't. It's a case by case. When there's farrowing going on, that's when I'm going out there and seeing what's happening.
Yep. And you answered his other question about tagging ears.
No.
And if you were to tag, we've had the best success with the small buttons. And you just get them at a feed store anywhere. They use them for cows a lot. But even at that, unless you put them really far inside the ear, the pigs rip them out. And then if you put them inside where the pigs can't get them, you can't read them.
And you can't read them. They get dirty and you can't read them anyway. So notching is a far better thing. There's another way to go. I've never done it. I've seen it done. It's tattooing. And it's not, well, I suppose you could get a tattoo gun, the kind, like I'm sure a lot of people that are listening to this, you do your own tattoos. You and your wife tattoo each other and stuff. like we do. But you could get one of those tattoo guns, and when you're castrating, you could tattoo them at the same time, you know, who the mom is. But what they usually have is they have this thing, they're actually like blocks that you stack together, and they have little needles in them, and you take it and you get ink on it, and then you turn the baby pig over and you just go smack like that, and it tattoos I don't know. I don't like to get that complex with things, to be honest with you. I just don't.
Yeah. He's got registered stock and he's trying to keep track of things. So,
Okay.
yeah. Livestock paint, it doesn't stick for
Not very long.
not very long, especially not on pigs. We've done that too. When we
Yeah.
had fun and the kids could paint them up, but it was fun, but it didn't stick.
Gotta slam that.
I did.
Obviously, you didn't. No, she did. We have a new door that I just installed, and when the dogs push on it, they can push it open. So, is there another question?
Yeah, I got one more for you. Easiest to hardest animals to slaughter on the farm.
Hardest to easiest. Hardest, I would say, is beef, and beef is because the weight of the animal and the amount of facilities that you need. Easiest, probably chickens, because you know you can cool them off in a tub of water, and you can scald and scrape them with pretty rudimentary things. You don't need a lot of high-tech equipment. We happen to have high-tech equipment. We have a really good scalder and a really good plucker, but it's because we do a lot of them. But I would say, yeah, that's about there. Rabbits are not real easy. I mean, we do them, but they're not the easiest. Do a lot of pigs. So I'd say beef, then pigs, rabbits, chickens. I don't do many goats.
But goats are really
Don't do
easy.
any llamas anymore. I've done llamas, and they're not hard. Sheep, it's the shortest. Get through and skin them. Yeah. We do a class in the fall, an Anyone Can Farm processing class, hog harvest class. If you're interested in it, it's a pretty good one. It's a 3-day class, and we start out with live animals, live pigs, and we wind up with sausage and prosciutto and bacon and all that stuff. We go through all that, how to do all that stuff. It's a nice tool to have in your toolbox if you're going to do homesteading. The idea of homesteading is all these processes, you start owning them. You know how to do them. You have the tools for them. You have the technology. You have the thought process. You have it down, and then it's yours, right? You don't have to go depending on anybody else. If you are going to depend on somebody else to do your hogs, let's say, you've got to get them there. And so then you have to learn how to load hogs in a trailer or a pickup truck. And that was one of the draws for me to do it myself. When I first started doing this, I had one day that it was nearly impossible to get these pigs to go in a trailer, to the point where I was using bad language, actually. So it's just easier to be able to go out there with a rifle, bang, pick them up, and bring them to where you're going to do it. Set aside some time. It's something you can do with your kids, and it might sound a little weird, but my kids actually enjoy it. There's something about these processes that tickle a part of your being, because you're learning how to take care of yourself down to a more primal level than oh, look at me, I can go to the store and I can buy hamburger. Well, you don't know what they've ground up there. You just know it, well, it looks like hamburger. You know, but if you're killing a beef and you're stripping the meat off and you're grinding it and you're packaging it, when you eat that hamburger, you know what you're getting, and it is so much better to eat.
That's all I got.
That is. How much for the dog? No, it's too late. It would have to be a really special set of circumstances for me to give him up at this point. Like he would really need to be going to another farm.
Oh, like Scott's.
Oh, was that Scott that was asking?
Yeah.
You better be serious if you're asking me that, bro. And I might consider it because then I'd get to see him on. Yeah. Any more questions?
Nope, that's it.
No?
And it's 12 after.
Okay, it's 12 after, so we're going to call it quits for tonight, and appreciate everybody for coming out. Please give us a little feedback how it is to have both me and Jill here. I didn't really defer a lot to her because I'm not used to it, but if we do this again next week, I'll defer to it more.
Sweet.
Okay?
Good, Scott. Get hold of us.
All right. Good night. Remember, anyone can farm. See you next week.